Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. You're watching Daily Politics live on Trust TV. Thank you most kindly for joining us for your favorite conversation and discussions on politics, governance and public policy. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Tonight on the program, our attention focuses on the observance of Nigeria's Armed Forces Remembrance Day, a day dedicated to honoring the nation's bravest patriots and their invaluable contributions to nation building. As the country reflects on the heroic sacrifices of its armed forces, we focus on the welfare challenges faced by the families of fallen heroes, as well as the ongoing struggles of veterans and active servicemen. And to help us put all of this together and to analyze the insights and the developments within this particular community that means so much to Nigeria, we're joined by retired Major Yahaya Shinko from Abuja and Dr. Awal Aliu, the spokesperson for the Veterans Welfare Association of Nigeria. Both will be joining the conversation virtually as we shed light on what this particular day means for Nigeria and Nigerians, especially the bravest servicemen who have paid the ultimate price in service to their fatherland. Let's kick things off with this report put together by Kehinde Amodu on the commemorations that marked this day.
All traditions to mark this year's celebrations are performed with military precision and solemnity, starting with the arrival of the Vice President and the national salute. Beyond the ceremony, and as it is every year, attention turns to widows and dependents left behind by fallen heroes. Nevertheless, government is pledging to do right by military pensioners and families of those left behind by fallen heroes. This military ritual is the culmination of activities to appreciate the armed forces and the sacrifices they keep on making to keep the nation safe. Armed Forces Remembrance Day is an annual wake-up call to all Nigerians that some people are making sacrifices at the theater of war daily to ensure their safety. Some have paid the supreme sacrifice, and their dependents are left behind, and so honoring them should not be limited to just the 15th of January. From the National Arcade, Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Kehinde Amodu there with sights and sounds as well as the commemorations, which has become a tradition on January 15. By the way, just some historical context. The Armed Forces Remembrance Day used to be commemorated on November the 11th. However, after Nigeria's civil war, this particular day was shifted to January 15 because this particular day is quite symbolic in Nigeria's history, because it's the day where the no victor, no vanquished idea around the surrender of the Biafran forces and signing of some sort of peace agreement so that Nigeria can continue to exist as one was marked. So the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, since then, since 1970, has been commemorated on this particular day. So beyond just the ceremonies and the fanfare that usually accompanies some of these celebrations across the states, we can show you some of the pictures from the Abuja event here, where the Vice President represented the Commander-in-Chief alongside some of the top government officials like the Senate President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who was also represented by his deputy, Benjamin Kalu, the security chiefs and all of those heads of security agencies in the country were all in attendance. All of this signifying the importance of this particular day. You have the parades, you have the ceremonial laying of the wreath, you also have the different events that build up to this particular day. The emblems, as you might have noticed, have been worn by many public figures, everyday citizens, from December last year to this particular day, all of it culminating on this particular day that talks about the fallen heroes, their sacrifice, and beyond that, the veterans who are still with us in the society today. And what this particular day says about the contributions that has helped put Nigeria where it is right now as a country, and of course the current men in service who today are the ones fighting the Boko Haram insurgency, fighting the banditry, fighting all forms of internal and external forces that are trying to undermine the peace, the security, the sovereignty of Nigeria as a country. And of course, it is a moment to reflect on the various issues that underline the challenges. A case in point, the people you see in the picture here, widows, families that have been left behind by our fallen heroes, the issues around their welfare, their well-being, their sense of security, the legionnaires, people who have served this country for decades and who have to find a way to make sense of the country that they're living in right now. And this particular day is by design supposed to reflect on the existing challenges and how much more Nigeria can actually give to these groups of people as a way of saying thank you, but more importantly to signpost how their contributions remain central to the existence of Nigeria as a sovereign nation. And of course, the contributions of the Nigerian army goes way beyond their contributions internally. They've been part of successful missions across Africa, in different parts of the world, and this particular day also recognizes those contributions as part of the big picture of what the Nigerian Armed Forces represents and what it brings to the table year in, year out. So this is all a part of the conversation we're going to have tonight. We're trying to establish connection to our guests who are also in their various rights, veterans from the Nigerian Armed Forces, so that we can have a conversation about the significance of what this day means for those veterans, their communities. We have several stories about how the lives of some of these veterans are nothing to write home about, despite all that they have given to this country. What has the government, state, federal done to improve their welfare, their well-being? What about some of their entitlements and their general condition of living? As you can imagine, with Nigeria's current economic climate, it is quite hard to deal with some of these issues going on. I believe we have Major Shinko retired on the phone now. He's joined the conversation from Kaduna. Major, a pleasure having you join us on the program. Thank you so much for your service. Let me start the conversation this way. What does this day mean to you as a veteran?
Well, it is a very important day, at least for the country to recognize the import of the veterans, to make it a memorable day in which their efforts are recalled and to ensure that their labor has never been forgotten, the contribution they have made for the survival and the unity of the country. And at least every veteran is proud of this day.
So looking back at the history of Nigeria itself, the role the armed forces played in, keeping the unity, the sovereignty of this nation together, what do you think Nigerians, remember about some of these contributions, especially understanding where we're coming from and why this particular day is important, not just to the veteran community, not just to the armed forces, but to the country as a whole?
You see, when you talk about the unity of this country, I think the pivot is the establishment, the organization of the armed forces, particularly from the independence to date. And the role being played by these members of the armed forces is not limited to the unity of the country, but the region, the whole continent, the African continent. We have seen where the military forces of the country have participated in peacekeeping missions, and at the end of the day, it has yielded positive results. And equally, internally, the military are always being invited to participate in activities of which the civil authority are supposed to have carried out. As for example, the recent insecurity bedeviling the country, particularly the northeast, northwest, and the north central part of the country. These are activities that are supposed to have been handled by the civil authority, particularly the Nigerian Police Force and other civil agencies. But as the Constitution provides, where these civil authorities cannot cope up, the military can be invited. We have seen many people in the country have even forgotten that these are things that are expected to be carried out by the Nigerian police, and in most cases the blame is apportioned to the military forces while they are just out or being called out to assist the civil authority in the maintenance of the peace and order in the country.
Right. I mean, there is obviously, Major, there is no gainsaying the significance or the role that the Nigerian army continues to play in this one, the Nigerian armed forces generally speaking. Talk to me about what this day has become in terms of the commemorations. We shifted from November 11 to the January 15 because of the impact of the Civil War. But talk to me about the connection, because this day is as much about commemoration, but also a reflection. And in that reflection, we look at what the conditions of living is for the families impacted by this, directly impacted by this, people who have been left behind by our fallen heroes, or even the current veterans who are sometimes living hand to mouth. Talk to me about how this day has in any way, shape or form improved some of those issues that are quite germane to the conversation about the sacrifices that have been made on a regular basis.
Well, it is becoming a history because honestly speaking, I can tell you that the Nigerian government is doing its best nowadays to see that it caters for the retired members of the armed forces, the veterans, and particularly where they have left behind their families. The families are being reckoned, they receive their entitlements timely, and it has been improved, at least to sustain them, to provide for them what ought to have been provided by the fallen heroes, that is by their deceased parents. So the day is very important, and I am sure those that have lost their parents or lost their brothers in the course of the service are equally happy that such heroes have been remembered by the government. But only that there is this, still the need for the government to do more about the welfare, particularly of those that have lost their lives in the course of their service to the fatherland. As for example, some of them have left behind young children that unless if the government will come into their aids, at the end of the day, you will see they may become as dropout in their schools. And if not for maybe some good Samaritans, some of them will have been victims of this circumstance. So I think the government has to do something to provide at least a package or a support for educational backup to the children that are being left behind by deceased military officers.
And talk to me if there still exists a connection between the veteran community and current servicemen, where, we expect there to be some sort of solidarity there about, the history of the Nigerian armed forces, as well as some of those experiences that may be important in shaping the minds of the current servicemen. And I suppose also there is something to say about what they can currently see from the veterans community in terms of their welfare and their well-being.
Well, there's always used to be a connection between those still in the service and those that have left the service. And I'm sure they are equally doing their best, those who are still in the service, to see that at the end of the day, they have left something of good legacy that they will also be remembered even after they have left the office. And we should understand also that these retired military personnel, as the saying goes, once a soldier, always a soldier, they always respect one another. Even as you retired, those that are still in the service will assume, if by your enlistment you are a senior to somebody that is still in service, you will see that he will accord you that respect even after you have left that service. And the connection is always that they will want to leave an example, that is to say, for those who are still behind, to copy, knowing that one day, day by day, they will equally be called to leave the service. And some of them we have seen, they cannot even attain the time limit, the length of service by which they can retire. They may have some issues, maybe health issues, and at the end of the day, they may be compulsorily retired and what have you. So there is always that connection, and they understand the best way to encourage those that are coming behind is to make sure that there is a good package for those that have lost their lives, for their family to have some benefit, and also some of them that have ill health or issue of health that have left the service, so that those that are still in the service will be encouraged to see that even after you have been injured or when you have left the service, the government is still looking onward to see how you have a better welfare.
What about the society? Talk to me about the community and their reception of this particular day and what in general it represents in terms of an appreciation of the sacrifice of people like you, of veterans, of fallen heroes. Do you think there is an appreciation of the contributions?
Yes, there should be, and I think there is appreciation, at least if not generally. The substantial part of the community or citizen are appreciating the effort being put by somebody that has crossed his life for you to have peace and orderliness in your day-to-day activity. And in order to understand the import of the role being played by the military is to know the essence of making any government. As per the constitution of the country, it says that the security and welfare of citizens is the principal aim of every government. So if at the end of the day, the government is in place, but there is no these military personnel, no other agencies that will maintain the peace and order in the country, then the common man will not have a good atmosphere or conducive atmosphere that he will go about carrying out his normal business. And in this case, you will appreciate that, yes, at least substantially there is improvement in the terms of security, where particularly in the northern part of the country where we are faced with these challenges of Boko Haram, banditry, Lakura, and what have you. So you'll appreciate somebody that has crossed his life for you to go and sleep at home, to travel by day and night, to go to wherever you wish to go. When he has left his own family at somewhere else, he is in the bush, rain, sun, and what have you. So at least there should be that appreciation.
And finally, just before we go, there are some who say the formality of the events, the commemoration, makes it look like we're glossing over the real issues, because veterans the world over are a well-respected community, and in so many other societies they are placed on a pedestal because of their patriotism. Give me a sense of what more Nigerians can do, away from just what the government can do, what more Nigerians can do to place the veterans community, the legacies of fallen heroes, and the current efforts of the servicemen in perspective, where, you know, as servicemen, as veterans, you really understand that you're not just doing this for the money, but for a country that really appreciates what you're doing.
Yes, I think the people should understand that, as I've said earlier, somebody that has crossed his life for you to have peaceful living is somebody that you should appreciate. And in the course of doing that, at times they are used to have some problems between the civil society and the military. They should understand that it is the nature of the military activity that sometimes you will see them doing some of the activities as if they are not interested in having or becoming friendly with the civilians. No, it is the system that warrants it to be as such. And if at all there should be an issue between a military personnel and a civilian, they should take it amicably to see that it is being mended in such a way that they should understand whatever a military man does is for the benefit and for the good of a civilian. And in other countries as well, the military are being considered as the first line of whatever activity the government will do, particularly those that are retired. They will be considered as special class of people that should have a special treatment. So in Nigeria, it should not be different. And I'm sure the common man in Nigeria, particularly those that have the means, should equally be contributing to the welfare, particularly of the families of the deceased ones among the military personnel.
Right. Retired Major Yahaya Shinko, we appreciate your contribution to this conversation, but more importantly, we appreciate your years of service to Nigeria and, of course, to your colleagues across the country and all those fallen heroes whose legacies will never be forgotten. Thank you so much for your service and for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you.
That is our conversation with Major Yahaya Shinko from Kaduna, retired, who is speaking on the significance of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Coming up next, our exclusive interview with the former governor of Sokoto State, Tahiru Bafara, who opened up about his recent departure from the PDP, his thoughts about Nigeria's shifting political landscape, and how the youths remain the key to good governance, especially in the context of Nigeria's future. That is coming up next.